everybody, Jay Adams, Jay's Brawl Call. On this episode of Jay's Brawl Call, a very special guest, the Grand Pumbaa, the head honcho of the UFC, UFC's Dana White. The president himself is sitting down with us. He's going to give us an extended interview on July 4th. We couldn't appreciate it more. Thanks for being with us, Dana.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Dana, speaking of July 4th, which is our nation's birth date, July 4th was started in Boston. That's where you're from. And I'm assuming as a family guy, it's July 4th. You got the day off, and yet you came in here to the studio to do this with us. Very thankful for that.
My pleasure.
Thanks very much. Now, speaking of July 4th, you grew up in Boston. Tell us what it was like growing up in Boston, and how did growing up in New England inform who you are as an adult today?
Well, I've been very fortunate in that I really grew up on both coasts because we're from Massachusetts, but my grandparents lived in Maine, so I spent a lot of time up there in the summers and stuff. And when I was in about third grade, we moved to Las Vegas, and then I moved back to Boston when I was 17. So I've really had the best of both worlds, and I wouldn't change any of it. I love the fact that I had New England and grew up there. Most of my life, and I had the West Coast too. So it was a really unique experience growing up.
It sounds like a real powerful synergy that enabled you to do a lot more than the average person does.
Yeah, you meet different people, and you know, because the West Coast is very different than the East Coast, and the people are different. So you learn how to deal with a lot of different people, and I made a lot of friends on both coasts. When I was a kid, we lived in a place called Ware, Massachusetts.
Okay.
W-A-R-E.
Yeah, I know where.
Okay.
Where.
So we lived there. I had some crazy jobs. I worked up in Wakefield. I used to pave roads. If you ever paved roads in the summertime, man, let me tell you what, that's the hardest job you'll ever do. I did that. I was a bellman at the Boston Harbor Hotel. I was a bike courier. I was a bouncer at the Black Rose. I had just about every job you could do until I was 19. Then when I was 19, I walked out of the hotel one day and said, I'm done with this. I want to get into the fight business. And I've never done anything else.
Right now, I want to stay on the early stuff because there's a lot of questions I think that my viewers would love to know about you as a personality. And we'll get into the fight stuff, which is the most remarkable story just ever. But let's stay with the early stuff so we can get to know you as a guy.
Well,
Family man?
Well, when you talked about
Yeah.
Vegas,
Yeah.
Vegas is a place where there's a lot of new money here.
Yes. Yes.
People come here, you have an idea, you work hard, you can make it happen. I never felt that way about Boston.
I agree with you 100%. I felt that heat, and it was one of the reasons I wanted to know where you went to school. I went to what I guess could be considered a blue-collar university, Northeastern. We were all CJ majors, wanted to be cops,
Yep.
or we were engineers. It was a blue-collar university where I felt like I could at least get I had that safety thing in Boston. Just get a job, get your 9 to 5,
Exactly.
be safe, get your insurance, get your
Exactly.
pension,
Exactly.
right?
Get a job with the city.
Yeah.
Get a job with the
If you're in
city.
Southie, man, that's the big thing. Get a job with the city. Get a job with the fire department. and
Exactly.
you're all good.
Fire department, city, police department. You get your benefits. You can retire. That is the Boston mentality.
Jay's Brawl Call is brought to you by AKO, American Knockout Wear, where shadows become legends. CNP Professional, the ultimate in sports nutrition. CNP Professional, because it works. And HealthMate Saunas, the leader of the sauna industry since 1979. HealthMateSauna.com. More white-on-white crime when we return. family man. Kids?
Yep.
How many kids?
I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys, 11 and 12, and a little girl that's 7.
Ah, good for you. Now, will you let the boys fight if they want to fight?
The boys have been training since they were 3. But I introduced them to everything, not just fighting. My boys started boxing when they were 3. Then from there, they went to Muay Thai. They've already been through wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and they're 11 and 12. So I give them a taste of everything. And they skateboard, they surf, they snowboard. They're both big football players. So, they do a little bit of everything.
What about your daughter? Will she be able to fight?
She
This is
already
the one.
fights.
This is the question.
She's got 2 older brothers. She's got to fight. You know what I mean? But she's got diplomatic immunity. She can do whatever she wants. They can't touch her. Yeah, I mean, I don't ever. My philosophy in life is that the true meaning of happiness. First of all, we all have bills to pay. Unless you're some mountain man who can go live up in the mountains and live off the land and make your own clothes and kill. We all have to work.
Yeah.
Okay, and work consumes most of our time in life. You have to find a job that you love. You have to find something. To be honest with you, if my kids came to me and said, "Dad, I want to pump gas for a living. I love being outside. I love the smell of the gas. I love being in if you're that passionate about pumping gas, you're probably going to own 20 gas stations someday. And you can get up every day and jump out of bed and be happy going to work. That's all I care about.
Nice. And I'm imagining you're the type of guy, type A, who's working a lot towards this. This is your passion. This is what you love doing. It's very obvious. Do you have any passions outside of MMA?
Yeah.
I mean, like in your free time, all the
Yeah.
free time you have?
It's funny because, unless my kids are around, like in the summertime, we have a house in California, and my wife and kids can't get the hell out of here fast enough. It's so hot. It's like we're breaking records for how hot it is here in Vegas this year. So they want to go out to California, and so a lot of the times I'll be alone. And here's the real sad, pathetic part of this story, okay? So I'll be working, and let's say we got a slow day or I can get off, and I could go do something. I literally don't know what I want to do. There isn't anything that I would rather be doing than doing this.
Wow.
So it's like I'm at this point in my life where I could go anywhere, do anything, and I don't want to do anything or go anywhere. I just want to work.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty
That's
pathetic.
I don't know. I mean, I don't look at that as pathetic. I look at it as you found it. You found your sweet spot. And there's a lot of people out there who are like, what's my sweet spot? Like, where is my passion? What do I want to do? And finding that, is
the battle. That's the whole battle.
Yeah.
That's what I always say about college. When you're growing up, if you don't go to college, you'll never amount to be anything. You'll never get a job. You'll never do this. You'll never do that. And what you said earlier is pretty much what I always say. I believe, this isn't a blanket statement here. It doesn't mean everybody, but most of the people that go to college learn how to work for somebody else. And I think that if you walk through any college anywhere in America right now and said, so what are you taking? What's your major? Well, I'm taking political science right now, but I think I'm going to switch to accounting. Kids are just moping around in school taking classes because they've been told that that's what they have to do. They don't know what they want to do for a living.
Yeah.
Where I've always been lucky is I've known since I was a little kid exactly who I was and what I wanted to do.
Wow. We're talking to the quarterback of the UFC, none other than Mr. Dana White. When we come back, we're going to talk about Bellator. We'll talk about Rampage. We'll talk about Roy Nelson. We got all kinds of great questions. And obviously, this type of stuff, which is the empowering, motivational stuff that I love so much about entrepreneurship and how you can make it too. All that and much more when Jay's Brawl Call continues. Stay with us.
Jay's Brawl Call is brought to you by CNP Professional, the ultimate in sports nutrition. CNP Professional, because it works. Healthmate Saunas, the leader of the sauna industry since 1979. HealthmateSauna.com. And AKO, American Knockout Wear, where shadows become legends.
Hey everybody, Jay Adams, Jay's Brawl Call. Welcome back. We are here with the big guy himself, Mr. Dana White, the president of UFC, having a great conversation with him. We were talking earlier about you worked at the Boston Harbor Hotel. I worked the wharf, commercial wharf. You had some funny stories about the Boston Harbor Hotel. Joe Cavallaro was a mutual friend of both of ours.
Really?
I was talking to him, and
Of course you know Joe Cavallaro.
everyone knows
The guy's
Cavallaro.
like the mayor of Boston.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
He is. He was telling me when you guys would have disputes about your tips, you had a very unique way of solving the disputes. You go in the closet and beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Yeah, so, that business, you'd be surprised what a cutthroat business, working as a bellman is. It's like everybody's trying to jump a guy for $1. It's crazy. So, yeah, we had sort of this, obviously wasn't the rule at the Boston Harbor Hotel, but it was among the bellmen. If there was a dispute, you took it into the closet and you figured it out. Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
crazy.
true.
That's
It's funny
crazy
because
stuff.
when I tell the story about when I walked out of that was where I walked out of that place one day and said, I'm done with this. I'm gonna get in the fight business. I'm 19 years old. It's a great job. Some people, die in that position. They have those a bellman job. They get great benefits. It's a beautiful place to work. The money is really good. And like we were talking about the Boston mentality, some people stay in those jobs forever. And I literally walked out one day, and Joe Cav's the guy. I said, I'm out of here. He's like, what happened? What's wrong? I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And he says, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to get involved in the fight business. You're an idiot, this and that. And Joe read me the riot act on, and he and I are still friends today. Last week, I went on vacation up to my place in Maine, and he came up and hung out with us for a few days. So,
wow.
Yeah, he's still a very good friend of mine.
Fantastic guy. You're also a bouncer up there. Did you ever have to mess someone up in there?
Well, I actually got fired from bouncing for fighting, if you can believe that one. Yeah, I worked at the Black Rose, and I worked at the Black Rose when that place, I don't know what it's like today, but that place was rough. Faneuil Hall is rough. And that was the spot. That was the place to hang out. And we would get some rowdy dudes in that place. And yeah, especially St. Patty's Day. St. Patty's Day was always the worst day. You made the most money that day, but you were definitely getting in a fight that night. But,
Boston's tough, man. I
it's
remember
a tough city.
81, I was at the parade when the Celtics won. And we were at City Hall, and I was shooting it, so I was right up front. And Larry Bird was doing a talk, and these guys just started throwing beer bottles, right? And beer bottles were crashing down on people, like 30 or 40 guys throwing them. And Bird's like doing damage control. And it was like, people don't realize Boston's got a tough side, man. That's a tough town.
No doubt about it. I mean, especially back in the old days. I mean, when you talk about the 80s, early 90s, it was a real rough place. It's chilled out a little bit, especially Southeast. Southeast chilled out a lot.
Southie.
The North,
Southie.
The North End has too.
Yep. Well, Southie, I heard someone tell me that you had left Southie under very special conditions yourself. You were working, you had your own boxing outfit up there, and you had to leave Southie.
Yeah.
Tell them why you had to leave Southie.
I don't know if I had to leave, but I chose to leave.
Yeah.
So I
this is funny.
I was, me and a partner, Peter Welsh, had a place down there. We were training people how to box and everything else. So I'm teaching a class at the Boston Athletic Club, and these two guys walk right in the middle of the class and said, we need to talk to you. So I'm sitting there thinking, hell are these guys? What are they, the owners of this place or something? So we go outside, and first I told them, I'm teaching a class right now. Can this wait till after? They're like, yeah, I can't wait. We need to talk to you right now.
No, I can't wait.
We go outside, and it took me a couple minutes before I realized who they were, and they were two of Whitey Bulger's guys. Basically said that I owed them money, for working there or whatever the deal was. And, it wasn't
How much money did they say?
$2,500, so, which
lot
was
of money
like
back then.
$25,000 to me.
Yeah,
back in those
yeah.
days, so, I avoided it for as long as I could, and then one day I was home and I got a phone call and they said, you got till 1 o'clock tomorrow to pay us the money.
What?
And that's it. I said, so I literally bought a plane ticket, left all my stuff in Boston, and flew back to Vegas.
Oh, man. Yeah. Dana White had a shakedown, was shaken down by Whitey Bulger. Shaken down. It's funny, when I worked commercial wharf in school, I parked cars, and the Italian mob parked their cars with us. You've never seen anyone driving more slowly, more carefully. I was like, really, do I have to drive this? You know, we would flip coins of who had to drive the car.
Right.
We didn't care there was this gorgeous Cadillac. It was like, no, we're not, I don't want to drive it.
Boston is a very unique place, especially back then, man. I was like, how does this, these guys don't know what century it is here. It's like, you would never believe that this stuff still exists.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, early 90s. It was like crazy.
It is crazy. So you came to Vegas, mostly on your own accord, but with a little help, a little encouragement.
Yeah.
And you started the boxing. You've been a lifelong martial artist fan and a lifelong boxing fan. How did the boxing evolve? Which one evolved first? Because you're teaching boxing, but you've always loved martial arts. What was the number one love? Which one were you doing first?
Well, I always loved fighting, and I love martial arts. I was a huge Bruce Lee fan growing up, Chuck Norris, but boxing was my passion. It was my love, and I was a huge Tyson fan in the 80s and 90s. Marvin Hagler, another Boston guy, Muhammad Ali.
Who grew up with those guys.
Yep.
So you teach in class, and I know this because of Jamie Wise, who is the wonderful human being who set this up. And you teach in class, and it starts blowing up. You started getting kind of like a Thai Bo thing going on, where all of a sudden you're like this. You became like a star. And you were teaching Lorenzo or Frank was in your class.
Lorenzo and I went to high school together.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And we bumped into each other again at a mutual friend's wedding. And at the wedding, he was like, I heard you're involved in boxing. And I was like, yeah. And then he had just got on the Nevada State Athletic Commission. He was the vice chairman. And he said, I'd love to get together. Let's work out together and whatever. So we hooked up again because we went to high school together. And then, you know, you go your own ways and you go to school and do all your things. And then, you know, we bumped into each other again. So we started working out. And Lorenzo and I have been together ever since.
And it is an amazing story. We're going to hear all about it. We're going to get some numbers, what the UFC is doing. When we come back from this break, you're not going to believe how big this organization is right now. Global domination, I'm starting to think that that's the outcome here. Global domination for UFC. We'll ask the man himself, the president of the UFC, Mr. Dana White, when we return.
Jay's Brawl Call is brought to you by AKO, American Knockout Wear, where shadows become legends. CNP Professional, the ultimate in sports nutrition. CNP Professional, because it works. And HealthMate Saunas, the leader of the sauna industry since 1979. HealthMateSauna.com.
There's been a lot of hullabaloo buzzing around you about fighters' pay. It's no secret that a lot of fighters, not a lot, I mean a good amount of fighters have complained in the past about fighter pay, especially the middle-class fighters not happy with their
Lower
pay.
Lower class.
Okay, lower-class fighters not happy with their pay. You have recently, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've recently floated out the idea of possibly restricting or eliminating altogether the fighter bonuses. Any truth to that?
Yeah. So what's basically happened is you got there was a kid, his name is Cholish, that came out, and I didn't even know who the hell he was until he started bitching about what he was paid. And the bottom line is this. First of all, there's guys, the way that this business works is there's guys who people want to see fight. They'll buy tickets. They'll travel to wherever the fight is. They'll buy the pay-per-view. They'll stay home on Saturday nights. These are the guys that make a lot of money. All the other guys are trying to be those guys, right? So, like I said earlier about not everybody wins a trophy, it's one of the unfortunate realities of professional sports. Do you know how many baseball players play in AAA ball and everything else, hoping to make it up to the majors? And then when they get to the majors, there's no guarantees. You perform or you go away. And it's the same thing in this sport. You perform or you go away. And then, you got a couple of guys that are either on their way out or guys who just can't make it, can't hang here in the UFC. So when you get a couple guys talking about fighter pay, then it becomes a loaded question that you ask, a fighter. So, do you make enough money? Do you feel like you're being paid enough? Well, let me ask a loaded question. Do you make enough money? Do you feel like you're being paid enough? Let me ask this cameraman right here if he feels he's being paid enough or if he thinks he should make more money.
Steve?
Or the audio guy. I wonder if the audio guy
That's
is making enough
Steve.
money or if he should be paid enough money. It's a loaded question. Ask any human being if they're making enough money. The answer is going to be no. I have yet to meet a guy that's like, oh, yes, I'm making too much money, actually. I couldn't possibly spend it all. I'm still waiting to meet that dude. Okay, I haven't met him yet. So it's the business that I'm in. Every time a fighter's contract is up, we negotiate a new contract. And when we negotiate a new contract, guy doesn't walk into my office and I say, sit down. Here's what we're going to pay you. $300 a fight, okay? Now get the hell out of my office. It's not how it works. We go into extensive negotiations for months. And we negotiate back and forth. And when the deal is done, the fighter comes in and says, thank you very much. I'm happy with my deal. See you later. Now, don't come back 2 months later and say you're not happy with what you're getting paid. We already negotiated the contract. And in this business, it's not a situation where it's like if you work for a company for like 4 years and you're in there, you're like, when am I going to get a raise? Or I want this next position. You come in, you eat what you kill. You negotiate your deal, and then if you go on a fight streak and you become big and popular, I have to sit down back at the table and renegotiate with you. And it's not like there's nowhere else to go. You and I just had this conversation for 10 minutes where you were telling me how smart all the guys are over at Viacom and how good they're going to do and how unbelievable their game plan is. Well, they got $5 billion in cash that they're sitting on, right? They can afford to pay these guys too. So where is the...
Yeah. There's people out there who are saying right now that the idea of getting rid of the fighter bonuses is only going to create a rift between the fighters, between the elite fighters and, as you call them, the lower class fighters.
Right. Damn right it is.
Was that by design?
No,
but
that's the reality.
Yeah.
So if you look at what we pay in bonuses all year, it's millions and millions of dollars. Well, the guys who know they're talented enough to win those bonuses, right? They're like, are you serious? These guys are lucky to even be here. And they might not be here in another 2 months. We're going to give up all of our money, possible money, bonuses, for these guys that probably won't even be here. And at the end of the day, they're right. It's not fair and it's not right. Because if we take that millions of dollars, we could escalate everybody's pay, and bring that number up. But the guys who are talented enough, and that's what sports are about. Sports, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, it's about the guys who are talented enough to be there and stay there. And the guys who aren't, wash out and have to go get real jobs.
Jay's Brawl Call is brought to you by Healthmate Saunas, the leader of the sauna industry since 1979. HealthmateSauna.com. AKO, American Knockout Wear, where shadows become legends. And CNP Professional, the ultimate in sports nutrition. CNP Professional, because it works.